Welcome to the Shunned podcast, where we expose religions that use shunning as a tool to control people. Some quick business before we get started. As you know by now, I offer one-on-one coaching to help people recover from life in these high control groups. I work to help people grieve the past, find themselves, and then find a life that they actually want, not just the one they were given. I'm actually offering something special, so if you want to work with me, now would be a good time. I'm actually offering pay what you want pricing. That's not something you see very often, but I want to work with more people. I want to try to help more people. So, when you look at it, traditional therapy locally is usually, $100 plus per session. Online therapy is usually $80 or more. I typically charge $50 for coaching, which most people find reasonable, but I'm actually letting you decide the price. So the minimum is actually $20, but you decide from there. And by doing so, I'm hoping that I can help more people. So if you're feeling unhappy or stuck, send me an email at shunnedpodcast@gmail.com or reach out through any of the websites that I have, whether it's shunnedpodcast.com, xjwhelp.com, or whatever. And let's start working together. We already lost so much time in these groups. You can certainly do some healing alone, of course. But, when we work together on things, we can often heal a lot faster. And, we can also process things together, challenge perspectives, get new tools, find ways of different ways of looking at things, find acceptance, kind of go through this grieving process together. And in the end, more and more people have been reaching out for help, and seeing people that I work with actually start to find their voice, to make big changes in their lives, to be who they've wanted to be, or to just be proud of who they are. That's the best feeling in the world. Speaking of seeing people become who they are, or be able to speak to who they've been, today we actually have another brave person that's reached out to tell their story as part of the process of healing. It can be very cathartic to share your story with other people, to feel seen, heard, validated. So let's go on a journey with today's guest. As you listen, look for the lessons, look for the ways that maybe your story relates, and maybe you can learn about what has worked for this person, or maybe what hasn't. Maybe it's something that you can pull into your own life. If you were never involved in these groups, I get emails from people that just listen because they find these stories interesting or they find them inspiring. So please help spread the word. These aren't just cult stories. These are human stories. So many of the things that were experienced by the guests of this show are found in other areas of life. So share these episodes and let's help shine a light on the human experience. What's really going on in this world? You never know who it might help. So without further ado, let's go ahead and meet today's guest.
My name is Joseph. I am 31 years old, and I'm busting my ass to be shunned by these cultists known as Jehovah's Witnesses.
I like it. All right, so we'll get a little more into how that's going at the end. But how did you come to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the first place? How old were you? I know you weren't necessarily born in.
How old was I? I would have been. I'd have been 24.
Okay.
When I started associating.
Gotcha. So
not when I got baptized.
Gotcha. And how did you come to? Now you, of course, weren't born in. So let's first look back at your past a little bit. So were you religious before then, or is this the first time you had ever kind of been introduced to, some sort of almost fundamentalist type of religion?
No, so my family, they were followers of Charles Taze Russell, and they even sold their farms and stuff and moved to some commune because the world was ending.
Really? So your family was your direct parents? Or are you just talking about going way back?
Well, obviously not. Obviously, my parents weren't alive when Russell was.
Well, that's true. But I think there are still Russellites around today. So.
Okay, true. No, when Russell was around.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So it goes all the way back then, and they moved into some commune, and because they sold all of their property and all that, and gave it to Russell, and because the world was supposed to end, and as we see, it never ended. And wow. they stayed. They called themselves Bible students, and my grandmother says something about the dawn. I don't. Do you know anything about the dawn?
Nope. Not a
Okay.
thing.
Wasn't there like a book called The New Dawn or something? I don't know.
Oh, go. Let's see.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
no, there was something about the dawn. Like, yes, there absolutely
But
was. I can't. I'm blanking on it. I wasn't around then either.
but my grandmother told me that growing up, she always thought that Russell was one of our relatives because in her house and in all of the families, like her grandparents, her aunts and uncles, in their houses, there'd be a picture of Russell on every, like not on every, there'd be a picture of Russell in every one of their houses. So she just grew up thinking that must be one of our relatives.
Oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. And
Wow. Nothing culty about that.
no.
nothing
But yeah,
nothing at
the
all.
world didn't end and they got kind of discouraged and stuff, but they still considered themselves Bible students because I guess my grandmother would she'd be asked by other kids at school like where do you go to church and like what are you and stuff, and she didn't know, so she'd ask her mother like why don't we go to like a normal church and stuff, and she'd be told by my great grandmother that we're Bible students. And something about the dawn.
Where did they meet? Just in people's homes, I guess?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So they'd meet in people's homes. And then they left the Bible student. Well, actually they didn't. They stayed in the Bible students. They what am I trying to say? When Rutherford took over
Yeah.
and changed everything, they did not follow that.
Yes.
So they stayed Bible students. But what's weird is like my grandmother, she would take my father and my father's the oldest, and then there's a middle son and then a younger son.
Okay.
So my grandmother would take my father and the middle child to the Kingdom Hall sometimes.
Really?
Yep. But I mean, I didn't really know much about them. I was just told my family had like a long time ago been in some cult.
Wow.
That's literally how it was put. They were in some weird cult.
Wow, it does make you think back. I mean, just what you said about like selling property and giving stuff to Russell.
Yes.
And the world was going to end and stuff like that. It almost sounds like what later happened with the witnesses in 1975, where a lot of people sold property and gave everything they had to the witnesses.
Absolutely. And I don't know how many of those communes there were. No one ever talks about that.
This is the first I've heard of that. There were communes for the Bible students?
Yes, and they sold out. They did everything together. They sold all their properties, gave it to Russell, went and all lived together. It obviously worked out really well. So
yeah. Yes, the end is here. The Bible students were correct. They all stayed together.
Yes.
Wow. That's the first I've ever heard of some of this.
This was in Canada.
Okay. Was this in Canada? Near, so it wasn't Russell was around like the Pittsburgh areas where a lot of it started.
Well, what's weird is the people. Okay, so the people that did it, I guess they were from like Pennsylvania, around where Russell was from, and they did all this and sold their properties and gave it to him and moved to this commune in British Columbia.
Really?
Yes. Like I don't ask. I don't know all the like tiny details because it makes no sense. But what does with this cult?
Sure.
So
yeah, and it's just another layer. There's so much in the history that we never knew as Jehovah's Witnesses. I was with J-Dub my whole life and didn't know any of this stuff.
Yeah, and I didn't really know anything myself. When I was 18, I briefly dated a girl that was a Jehovah's Witness, but we didn't really get into religion.
So when you were growing up in your own household, were you all religious, and were you all, if you were you following like some version of the Bible students or the J-Dubs or something like that?
No. Well, yes, we were religious. No, we were like polar opposite of J-Dubs.
Okay.
Um, Trinity. Um, you're gonna burn in hell if you piss off God for all eternity. So like Bible based, but complete opposite.
Gotcha. What religion was it, or was there a name for it?
It's weird. We always went to churches that were supposedly non-denominational,
Okay.
but they always had Baptist in the name because that makes sense.
Yeah, I can't really wrap my mind around that right now. How can you be non-denominational Baptist? But I don't know. You can be whatever, I guess, if you want.
It'd either be First Baptist or two of them. Most of my life, they were called Bethel Baptist.
Okay.
I guess I could say I've been to Bethel.
So then you were raised in a religious environment. Was it were your parents really strict with it, or?
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't like just something you just kind of went to on Christmas and Easter or something like that.
No. And what's weird is one thing that impressed me about the witnesses when I started associating with them, I was like, wow, these people act like the people that I was always told were worldly. Like Jehovah's Witnesses are worldly compared to what I grew up with.
Really?
Yeah, Jehovah's Witnesses, I was like, wait, you can actually like listen to music that's not, about Jesus?
Gotcha. So you were more isolated almost in your non-denominational Baptist church.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Definitely. Like,
did you all watch? Did you all have a television, or?
We did have television, but there wasn't much we were allowed to watch. We weren't allowed to watch like a lot of stuff. Like, did you ever hear of a show called like Boy Meets World?
Oh yeah, Boy Meets World.
Oh no! We'd get in so much trouble if we were caught watching that.
Really?
Yes.
Well, it did have the word "the world" in it,
Oh yeah, true. No, but like what I'm quite familiar with like Andy Griffith. I Love Jeannie.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the old stuff. I Love Lucy. Well, it's not I Love Jeannie. I Dream of Jeannie.
Yeah.
But yeah, we weren't allowed to watch like most things. Like apparently one of my relatives wanted to take me to the movie Bambi when it came out, and I wasn't even allowed to go see that.
Wow.
So
was that because of the way? Doesn't Bambi? I don't know if I've probably seen it when I was a kid, but I can't remember it. Doesn't Bambi die? Was it the violence at the end?
I don't even know. And to be honest, like certain things, like most things that you're prohibited from doing growing up, you want to end up doing them.
Of course.
Bambi, I really don't give a damn. I don't care.
You still have this secret longing to see Bambi.
It's one of the few things that I was like, man, I'm fine never seeing it.
Yeah, I'm good without that. All right, so then obviously it was a very strict, what you would think of as a very strict, like fire and brimstone,
yes.
Fundamentalist upbringing.
Yes, and like even books. It was like the Bible and Bible-based books, like like a lot of young boys and stuff, like they try to hide pornography,
sure,
and stuff like that. My version of pornography was I would hide Michael Crichton novels in my closet.
Yeah,
you did not want to get caught with one of those,
right? Yeah,
because somewhere in there it might say "damn" or something or "shit" or
Yes.
And like even in school, a lot of the books that they have you read in English class and stuff, I'd end up just sitting out in the hallway because I wasn't allowed to read those books.
Wow! So you went to public school then?
Yes, but thank God, because the church we went to, they had a school. And I don't know why, but I'm so grateful I didn't have to go to that school. Like I don't. It makes no sense. But
Yeah. Yeah, at least you
I
had that. So I got to ask. So I mean, because you're coming from a different religious background, how did you deal with it in public school? Did you feel like an outcast all the time, or were you able
I
to have
do remember.
friends?
I remember certain arguments and people freaking out because I dared have a Bible because they thought that Bibles were like illegal to have in a school.
Ah, yes.
It's, they're
Yes.
not. If it's yours, you can carry it around.
Sure,
But
sure.
yeah, and we were in. There's this thing called Awana, and it's like it's kind of like Boy and Girl Scouts,
Okay, I've heard of that.
but it's at the church.
Okay.
So yeah, I'd have to wear that stupid little uniform to school, and but for the most part, I wasn't really. The religion wasn't really like a bad part of my like school life.
Yeah. So you weren't kept from having
But
friends or anything? Like Jehovah's Witness kids aren't supposed to have be friends with the other kids at school. Were you kind of in the same boat?
I I I think in general, the only people I was kept from being friends with were, if I'm being truthful, not good kids to be around. But I was allowed to have friends that didn't believe in God or didn't go to church.
Okay, okay. So it wasn't quite as closed off in that way anyway. That's good.
No, because like my best friend growing up, um, his parents didn't go to church. They thought the Bible was a bunch of fairy tales and stuff, but like they were super nice and we just didn't talk about it. And he came over to my house all the time. I went over to his house. Like, it was fine.
Nice. I like that. I like that. So you grow up and how do you eventually end up being introduced to Jehovah's Witnesses?
Well, I guess maybe I should go back and clarify real quick. I was never baptized in growing up.
Okay, so you weren't baptized as a
whatever. The hell.
Yeah.
My sister was. I have one sister. That's it, and it just never like quite clicked in me.
Sure.
Because I just didn't. I didn't want to love this hateful God.
Yes.
This like three-headed God beast. But okay, so I just wanted to clear that before we start.
Sure, sure.
And I kind of I still believed in the Bible, but wasn't quite sure exactly what. And I thought that the Apostle Paul was basically like satanic, and all the stuff he wrote was contradictory to what Jesus Christ taught. And anyway,
well, he was kind of he was kind of a jerk. So, Jesus kind of presented as this nice guy, and Paul did kind of really go above and beyond some things. So
yeah,
absolutely.
So by the time, I moved way far away from where I'm from because geez. Okay, I'll answer your question. I guess we can backtrack. I moved far away to get away from all that and things that were done, and took about like, I don't know, 700 miles, and I ended up moving in right next door to Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, does that ring a bell?
As someone who moved in next to Witnesses at the age of 8 years old and whose life changed, I completely understand how chance real estate transactions can ruin your life.
Yes. So, how did it start? Started with like a conversation by the mailbox, about, like, I knew that my family had like followed this guy called Russell, and like I knew it kind of like turned into that religion, but I didn't know much about it or whatever. And oh my God, here we go. Full on. Because like, so you're saying your family was of the anointed? Like, I don't know what that means. I'm done. Like,
yeah.
Because I didn't even know what that meant. But apparently everyone back then was, I guess, anointed. Like,
yes, that okay. They would have seen them as anointed before 1930, whatever.
Yes. So massive hard on for Joseph.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
So yeah, then I'm trying to remember. They would come over and try to give me some literature and stuff, and I would see these photos of like people living in some sort of tropical paradise, and like lions and like all these dangerous animals just around them, and everything's all fine and dandy.
Yep.
You know, like the New World. And I remember just thinking, like, what a crock of shit. Like, seriously, man. And I don't know, they just kept coming around. And then finally one day, and I didn't know what this meant because I'd actually been given a Bible teach book, and I kind of flipped through it and was like, meh, no thanks. One day the neighbor caught me outside and was talking to me, and of course they're super nice and friendly. And he said something about like, would you be up for doing a Bible study like once a week? And I thought, I don't know anyone here and stuff. Yeah, sure, whatever. Because I don't mind sitting around and trying to prove you wrong. So I got nothing better to do. So then, like,
but that makes sense, though. You were in a vulnerable position. You know, you had moved
a
ways away, had no community, and now they're going to try to adopt you into theirs.
Yes, and I had lost a lot before then, a lot.
Had you lost people in death, or?
No, I had I married someone that wasn't white, and life went to hell. So anyway,
so because you married outside your race, you were not accepted, and
correct.
Were you? Because
I was very selfish, because I wasn't thinking about the children that I would have, and it's like it's wrong and unfair to the children when they're mixed race. Apparently, I disagree with that, but
well, it's only wrong and unfair if they're around racists. You know,
touche.
You know, that's when it's wrong and unfair.
I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just telling you what I was told.
Yeah. So you were, I mean, were you kind of like banished, or did you just you were?
Yeah. I completely screwed myself by not marrying someone that they approved of.
And so, like, Jehovah's Witnesses officially shun people. Were you like officially shunned? Were you no longer part of their world?
By officially shunned, was there some sort of announcement? No.
Okay.
Did everyone stop talking to me? Was I no longer invited to anything? Was I completely cut out of everything? Yes.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, that's about it. You know, I guess as official as it gets, just in that everyone has turned their back on you because you married someone outside your race, which is ridiculous. But there's a lot of ridiculous things in this world. So,
and the I guess spoiler alert, that marriage didn't end up working out. And that's a really I'm over it and everything. I'm not like, whatever, life goes on, but life was absolute hell, and I don't blame her for what happened, because you can only take so much. And
sure, I mean, you all were set up to fail in many ways with that kind of
and there's some very, very sick things were pulled. Incredibly sick.
Like, so
okay,
go ahead. No, you can go ahead.
How did we get on this topic?
well, honestly, this sets up how it is. You know, so now then you move and you're vulnerable.
Yes. So I was trying to illustrate that, like, a lot of things had happened. It's not like I just up and moved and life was perfect and happy. And
yeah, you were a vulnerable person. You moved next door to Jehovah's Witnesses, and now you had gotten to the point where a Bible study was offered, and here's your chance for some association and,
Yes.
community a little bit. So how'd that go?
I was so disappointed because I was like, okay, I brought my Bible over there on whatever day it was that it started. And I was like, this should be interesting. It'll be at least be good conversation. And right off the bat, I get a brand new again uh, Bible teach book. I just thought, God damn it, this book. Like I've already looked through this thing. Oh no, come on. And then yeah, you can have a Bible study without a Bible. That's pretty crazy. But
Yeah.
and
So,
at first I just at first I just started off trying to trying to prove them wrong about everything.
and how did that
That was
go?
my goal.
How did that go for you?
Not very well. So,
They're
and
convincing,
again,
aren't they? And you're
yeah,
trying, you're
and
trying
at
to
first,
argue their narrative, which is difficult.
yes, and well, I was also kind of just trying to argue against the Bible itself.
Yes.
So not that I completely didn't believe in it, but I had problems with some of the stuff in it. And but the stupid thing is every contradiction I could think of, like all these like gems that I just thought I had, there was an answer.
Doesn't mean it's the right answer, but they have some sort of a thought stopper or some sort of
Yeah.
answer, right?
Yes. And eventually things started to click. And like it made more sense than what I was brought up to believe.
Sure.
Um, you know, there is no hell where you're tortured forever because you touched yourself when you were 12.
Yes.
And Jesus not being God himself made a lot more sense
Mm-hmm.
than this three-headed God beast thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's three, but there's only one. Basic math says, okay.
Yeah, what is it? Occam's razor. The simplest is usually the true answer.
Yes. So I don't know. It's just making more and more sense. So, but I was still skittish about going to a Kingdom Hall. Like something about it felt dirty. Just like I don't know about that. So he took me to, and he was an elder. He took me to the Kingdom Hall when no one was there. I think it was like some random day during the week.
Oh, I know. I've known of that happening. Yes.
Yeah. And just to show you around, you sit in the back room where the elders sit for their little meetings when they want to ruin someone's life. And just should they just show you how it's, nothing weird. And it looked very clean. It was kind of odd not seeing crosses or any sort of decoration really or anything. I guess usually there's like maybe a painting or something.
Mm-hmm.
But so that day I made an agreement. I said, okay, I will come here, but I will never set a foot back in here once I see the hypocrisy that I saw growing up. And I kept that promise because guess who doesn't go to Kingdom Halls anymore?
All right. So you're studying with an elder.
Yes.
And so, he is going to be more well versed even in their own teachings than your average publisher, or he should be anyway.
Yeah.
And then,
oh no, he was a former drug addict and stuff, so he switched his addiction over to the religion. So he knew everything because all he did was that religion, and the only thing on his iPod was audio of the Watchtower and the Bible and stuff. So like he knew a lot.
Yeah. And then I really like the point there. He was addicted to it.
Yes,
there is
absolutely.
that absolutely exists. It's an escape for a lot of people. And so he gets you to at least agree to come to the Kingdom Halls. So how was and you're like, 24, 25 years old.
Uh-huh.
How was it being that age walking into a Kingdom Hall the first time? Like, you had already said that you saw the pictures of the paradise and were kind of like, well, yeah, that's a fairy tale. But, you know, you can see that systematically you're being broken down in ways.
Oh yeah.
And so,
mind you, at this time I had a beard.
yes. And so,
But
how long did that last?
What blew their it lasted a long time.
Oh, okay.
What blew their mind was they offered to take me the first time, and actually they would take me like every time. I went and knocked on his door to go to my very first meeting. And they answered the door, and their jaws dropped because, I mean, yes, I had a beard, but I had a full suit and tie on, ready to go.
Wow.
Hair combed, because you know, worldly people usually show up in some jeans with holes in them, reeking of tobacco smoke, and like right. It's like, oh wow, they were shocked.
Oh, I bet.
So he's like all good to go. Just need to shave that unspiritual stuff off of his face. But they hadn't brought that up yet.
Yes. So you go to your first meeting. How does it feel to walk in to a Kingdom Hall for the first time at 20-something years old?
It was interesting. It like at first it actually didn't seem too bad because I heard the talk, and the talks were always my favorite thing because at least it's a different person, and it's like I know they have an outline, but they can make it at least kind of interesting versus that boring watchtower.
Yeah.
So I listened to the talk, and then there was I remember hearing the first prayer, and they ended it by saying, "And we pray this in the name of your Son, Christ Jesus, Amen."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I was told Jehovah's Witnesses didn't believe in Jesus, so obviously the things I'm told about them aren't true. Well, there are a lot of I don't
absolutely.
I don't like the religion, but there are a lot of misconceptions.
Absolutely, and that is definitely one of them.
So you do start seeing how a lot of the things you hear, a lot of the bad things you hear about the witnesses aren't even true.
Mm-hmm.
Which is very dangerous because then you start thinking, well, then none of the bad things must be true.
Right. Or you start feeling sorry for them because it's almost like, well, these people, people are spreading untruths about these people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And see that's what's so dangerous about lying about people and organizations is like, even if they're bad, if you start lying about them, people are going to find out that the things you're saying are lies, and then they just throw everything out.
Absolutely.
And don't believe anything about them. So that's why you have to be very careful and only say things that are completely true.
Yep.
Because, yeah. So where was that going?
So you're at your first meeting. So let me ask you, you talked about the, listening to the talk, the Watchtower study. What about just like the reception? How were you received? Like, did you feel that, a lot of people run into the whole love bombing thing. Did you feel the love from the congregation when you first walked in?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. Like, and they even call each other friends and brother and sister. Yeah. Well, I was turned off by brother and sister for quite a while, but they actually all seemed to be friends.
Yeah. And being without community, I imagine that must have made you feel really special to.
Oh yeah, and I was invited to anything and everything. They took me everywhere.
Yeah.
Went to all sorts of functions.
So how did that progress as you went on toward baptism?
Oh man. Things progressed and then they ceased to exist and had to start progressing all over again before I got to baptism.
Okay, so what was that trajectory?
Well, let's see. So I started really taking root, and I wanted to become an unbaptized publisher. After, it was weird because I remember saying at first, like, I'm never going to go knock on a door.
Oh, everybody, yes.
But but then I wanted to do that.
Right.
And then there was this huge tiff because the elder I was studying with didn't get along with some certain other elder. So I wasn't able to be an unbaptized publisher for several months while they continued to bicker. One of them would say, um, I couldn't be an unbaptized publisher unless I was in the theocratic ministry school.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other said, well, he can't be in the theocratic ministry school if he's not an unbaptized publisher. So therefore, nothing could happen, and I couldn't be a publisher because I couldn't be in the school, but I couldn't be in the school because. Does that make any sense?
Well, yes, it makes sense as to how that would really screw you.
It's like, so I can't do one unless I do the other, but I can't do the other unless I do the one. Okay, that makes sense.
It's like I can't get a credit card because I don't have any credit. Well, how am I supposed to develop credit if I don't have a credit card?
You're supposed to use a credit card. Come on.
Right. So how did that feel though for you? Because I mean, like, it seems like that would leave a bad taste in your mouth. Like, look, these people can't get this simple thing together here at the beginning.
Yeah. I saw it as petty, and obviously these two guys did not like each other, and they were refusing to budge. Eventually, someone saw reason, because I did end up becoming an unbaptized publisher.
Okay.
And how did it work? They took me into the back room. They asked me if I read the whole OD book.
Yep.
I lied and said yes.
I bet everyone does.
I'm not reading that thing. Are you kidding me? And then they just the questions are almost somewhat similar to the baptism questions, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I can't really remember. I was a kid, so I don't really remember. But you become an unbaptized publisher now.
But I'm also forced into the school.
Yes.
That was the agreement that they made.
Okay.
So that same meeting in the back where they said I could be an unbaptized publisher, I also got my very first assignment.
Oh, wow. Lucky
because you have to do both.
Right.
Which I found out you don't have to do both. Because my second time around, I was never in the school, and I ended up getting baptized. But I guess we'll get there.
Yeah. So let's finish out time number one. How did that end up going? Where you're now an unbaptized publisher, but apparently there was some point at which there was some sort of stoppage or something. How did that go?
So, I mean, it went great, and there was even like some younger people. I'd go over and study the Watchtower with them I forget what day it was. It was some day during the week, and I started getting pretty close with a girl. I really liked her, but I remember one time going door to door with her, with other people, obviously. I said something about the Watchtower not being inspired. Like, well, it's not the word of God. It's not inspired. It's not infallible. Right. And the look she gave me, like, I didn't even know what to say. But in my head, I was thinking, oh, she thinks everything written in their magazines and stuff is like 100%.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's gospel.
Even though it'll change.
Yep.
So,
and then the new change is gospel.
So I mean, for some reason I loved it because we had this congregation had just got permission again to re-enter this pretty ritzy older people community, and man, I loved it. Knock on their door and they'd come out freaking out. For some reason, I found it amusing.
You're a troll. You just like pissing them off.
I would actually even irritate the elders in the car group because I'd be like, who are we going to go harass today? I would actually say that. But so doing all that and everything, wow, how exactly do I segue into what happened. Obviously, before I became an unbaptized publisher, I reached the point where I shaved the hair on my face.
Mm-hmm. There goes the beard.
But I didn't originally do it to please them. I just got kind of tired of it.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I shaved my face, I went out and mowed the yard, and the elder next door, he saw me, and he had a big grin on his face, and he came over, he shook my hand, and I wasn't even an unbaptized publisher yet. He said, "It's good to see you, brother." He called me a brother, you know. I was like, okay, this is weird. And then the very first meeting I went to, I just acted normal, whatever. And I had so many people come up to me and ask me, so what was it that finally made you decide to shave off your beard? Because they were acting all like it was such a wonderful thing.
No, that's a big deal. Yeah, because
I just said, I don't know, I just got kind of tired of it. I do prefer to have one, but every once in a while, it's good to feel a breeze on your face. And within a couple of weeks, I just stopped shaving and it grew back. So,
oh,
oh yeah, like I really didn't. I didn't do it for them. Like
that's hilarious.
Honestly, I didn't.
Because
but I was perplexed with
yes.
the comments and how they viewed it as like some special thing, and I just thought, I just felt like shaving it for a minute. Like,
you mean you didn't do it for us to be one of us? You know what I'm saying? It's like
absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I even went to so I shaved it shortly before a convention, and the convention was like 3 weeks later, and I already had like half a beard growing in, and I went to the convention with them, and I forget what day it was. Whenever they release the publications, is it the last day? Whatever.
I think so.
You can go up to like the tables in the back.
Yep.
The elder told me, like, I don't know if I'd go up there if I were you. They might not give it to you. And I said, what do you mean? And then he just rubbed his face, and he implied that they can tell. They'll be able to tell you're not one of us.
So much drama over facial
and even that convention, one of the speakers got up, was talking about how he was in some coffee shop and he ran into someone trying to teach people about the Bible, who obviously wasn't a witness. And he said, I could tell he wasn't a brother because he had a little goatee. And I was just sitting there like, well, what does hair on your face have to do with anything?
Yeah, and it shows they would have withheld what they would see as life-giving information from you through a publication because you you had a beard.
No, but they actually I got it. And
yes, but I mean he would, what he was insinuating was that, and it's silly to even insinuate that. There's so much drama and importance over conformity is what it's about. It's not about a beard.
Because there's nothing scriptural about it.
Of course not.
And the beard was a constant issue till I finally left. It was a constant issue. I'd been sent home, refused to be able to go out in service because of it and stuff. But anyway, where were we?
So so how does the first time in your first stint end?
So I was brought up with I don't like the way I was brought up, but I was taught some good things. And one of the good things was I was always encouraged to volunteer my time. So growing up, we would volunteer in food bags and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Like you help people that are less fortunate than you. And I still, that is, no one can really argue against that. Right. Unless you're a total dirtbag. Or you're a Jehovah's Witness, because you only help out witnesses. So, so here, the elder's wife was a librarian, and I decided I'll volunteer at the library. And she would take me there. I'd just go with her, and it was fine. And then the midweek meeting, he always had to be at the meeting like super early to do, I don't know, a bunch of stupid crap. I don't even know.
Right.
So she would just take me to the meeting with her, which I realize isn't normally okay to do.
No, not for witnesses.
But it was like only in the car to transport from A to B.
Right. And to the Kingdom Hall or the library. So
Yes. And I don't know, I viewed her more like a mother figure because I could tell she was different. Um this elder had told me many times she had like a breast cancer scare. She's had multiple surgeries to remove lumps. And I remember one time he told me, if anything happens to her, I know exactly what I want because she's not what I want. And I could tell he just didn't want her.
good grief.
Yeah. And well, because like she didn't do everything he said.
Sure.
At least that's what I'm told. So I guess we'll get there. So and I was volunteering at the library, and she was super nice, and we just got close. And all of a sudden, rumors started forming that something was going on between us, and there actually was nothing going on between us. And I got close with not romantically, just yeah. I got close with her youngest daughter, which is still older than me, just like as friends.
Mm-hmm.
She herself was married. There's nothing weird. And even she heard the rumors and she didn't believe it. And it got so bad with the rumors that he stopped being my Bible study, and some other ministerial servant started studying with me. And one time I went over to his house for the study, and a couple elders ambushed me. And I was kind of pissed. And they wanted to talk about stuff. And nothing was going on. Nothing. And well, I became sorry, I was already a baptized publisher. Oh, what we were celebrating. Okay, so I had just got a new job.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over to their house, the elder that originally studied with me, and his librarian wife that I would go volunteer at her library. And
Mm-hmm.
We opened a bottle of champagne. Just me and the wife drank it because he had problems with addiction in the past, so he just didn't partake, which is fine. Not
Sure.
judging for that. That's good. Like if you got a problem, like all the best to you for acknowledging it and staying away. So
Yeah.
that's cool. But hey, it was about 10 o'clock at night, and I was over there. We were drinking champagne, and it was the day before Thanksgiving, and I was informed that my shit. I was informed that my father died. He fell over in his chair in his office,
Mm-hmm.
and died. And so
That's a tough message to get, especially something that I can understand, and I know many ex-witnesses understand. Obviously your relationship wasn't ended how you would want.
no, and the last time I saw him, so he died November 27th.
Right.
And the last time I saw him was October of the year before.
Yeah.
And he had told me that they can't have a relationship with me.
Yep, and
And
that's just a bad way to end.
he did give me a big hug and tell me he loved me, and
Good.
then he walked away.
Yeah. I'm sorry, man. It's I'm sure that a lot of people listening right now, or when this podcast comes out, will feel you on that. You know, because a lot of us have these experiences, um, and that puts you in a very vulnerable position once again. Um,
Yes.
you know, uh,
So, um, I I didn't even believe it right off the bat. I called a couple other family members, like, at 10:30 at night, and it was just weird. It's weird calling. It's really weird calling someone and saying that, is my dad dead?
yeah,
'Cause, I don't know. I thought someone was screwing with me or something, but
yeah. It's hard to believe.
no, it was real because he was in fine shape and he was 51. But so I flew up I flew up to Portland for the funeral and did that whole thing. And yeah, I was a bit of an asshole and I left a bunch of Watchtower stuff everywhere.
Yeah, you were gonna try to save people while you were up there.
And so they took me to the airport, and then sorry, by they I mean the neighbors. They took me to the airport. I flew up. Kim got me. Things were really weird. She didn't want to be around him. All the rumors and everything. And I guess I shouldn't say where it happened because I don't want people to get in trouble. We went to a place that we had already spent a lot of time together.
Sure.
And like she was trying to avoid her husband. We watched some movies on a projector. We'd gotten a bottle of Fireball. And she had to go pee because that's what happens when you're drinking. She came back and I was just sitting there, I don't know. I was just sitting there. She came back in and she walked right in front of me and planted a big kiss on my lips. Okay. Where is this going? And it went exactly where you think it did.
Sure.
And so that started, which was really, it's kind of a shame that all the rumors were around because all of a sudden, like, I don't blame people for thinking that we were lying the whole time.
Sure.
Because I mean, I myself would probably think, yeah, right, nothing was going on and something did. It just, but yeah. So all the rumors eventually became truth.
Mm-hmm.
And it got really bad. And to a point, he was getting, at least she told me he was getting violent with her. So I said, you know, I knew it wasn't going to last forever, this whole secrecy thing. So I said, okay, it was a Sunday. And it was in the morning, and she was telling me stuff he was doing. I said, okay, we'll go to the meeting today. After the meeting, I'll talk to some elders, and I'm gonna tattle on us, basically. Oh, I wanted the truth to get out because things were getting too weird.
Yeah.
Like it's time to just acknowledge things and get things rolling. Because especially
and move
since
on.
I didn't want her to be hurt by him and stuff. Because I don't know. So yeah, I met with them. It was weird. It was Sunday. I met with the elders after the meeting. I said I had something to tell them. And I told them in the back room. They didn't really talk to me a whole lot because they needed to talk to her husband first. and I went out. It was funny. My beard was back, which they didn't like, and I went out in service right after that. And then after service, again, I went somewhere familiar to us,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing was going on, but we were just sitting there talking, and we were in an office, and there's a door, glass door, that leads outside right from the office right there, and guess who shows up pounding on that door?
Oh yeah.
Because we were sitting there like coming up with the steps and what needs to be done.
Right.
And man, he wanted to fight me. Man, he was pissed. And I proceeded to call him it's cool. All the like pioneers and all the younger ones, I got them on board. I had a nickname for him that he didn't know. It was Dildo Head.
Dodo head?
Yeah, Dildo Head. Yes. So I called him Dildo Head, and what did you just call me? He wanted me to come out there and fight and everything. And I said, no, I'm not like you. I'm not violent. Because, I mean, really, I don't want to get in a fight with someone.
Yeah.
I don't want to get the cops involved and everything. So, what exactly happened?
I always find that interesting too. People always get mad at the person that their spouse, like, he wants to fight you, like you were the one who made all this happen. And I mean,
well, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And I totally see your point, but at the same time, I knew it was wrong.
No, I get
wrong.
that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it's interesting. A lot of times when these things happen in relationships, the person gets mad at the person their partner cheated with, not their partner. Like, you should be mad at your partner for doing this, you would think. But I mean, in the end, no one needs to be hit or fought. That's not going to help anything.
He stopped working when he was about 40 and just wanted her to support him. And he said, "You're my retirement." So, like, he didn't love her. He didn't care.
Sure.
He wanted that security. So obviously eventually he leaves because I'm not going out there. I'm 6'5" and he's a short little guy. And I'm not going to jail.
Sure.
No, thank you. I'm trying to piece everything together. So she refuses to go home for obvious reasons. And elders start calling me, and they want to meet with me because they called her too when I was present, and I witnessed her speaking to them, and she admitted to what was going on. So now it's time for judicial committees, and they had one with me before they had one with her, and I was kind of nervous. It's like looking around, like, that guy better not be showing up here, you know. And
and even if he doesn't, you're going to a judicial committee with but again, his elder buddies.
I'm unbaptized, so.
Oh, that's true.
Yes. So, what's the worst that can happen to me? Like, I'll get removed as an unbaptized publisher, right? But everyone can still talk to me, which is exactly what happened. But in that judicial committee, I was really taken aback because there were three of them, and they had always been really nice to me, but they acted like snakes this time. And I get it. The behavior was reprehensible, no matter what your religion or anything. Like, almost everyone agrees, regardless of their beliefs, that type of behavior and conduct is unacceptable. True?
Yeah. Yes. There are better ways to have relationships with people. Yes.
Yes. If someone's married,
right,
not good.
Yeah.
Even atheists. So Those horrible satanic atheists.
Raise his hand. Go ahead.
So, no, but they asked me, like, so I admitted, yes, we ended up having sex, and we continued doing so,
Mm-hmm.
which most people, that's all they need to know,
Right.
because most people aren't sick. So,
Mm-hmm.
but no, I had to be asked, like, was there anal sex? Was there oral sex? Like, how long was it? Did she have orgasms? You know, all this other weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, and I even asked them, like, I don't. I said, I don't see how this is relevant. Like, why does this really matter? But in the end, for some reason, I still answered all the questions. I just thought it was really weird. Like, don't like. I'm
It is.
confessing. I'm confessing. She's confessing. Like,
Yeah.
because like even
It doesn't
if
matter.
no, like a normal person, like if your wife and some guy said, like, we've been having sex, would you really sit there and be like, okay, well, give me all the details? Did you do this,
Right.
this, and that?
Right.
No, you just go, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Okay. And you'd be devastated, but you wouldn't even want to know all the little details, right?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, they made me go sit out in the hall while they talked for seemed like 60 seconds. Like it was a done deal.
Yeah.
And then they brought me back and said they're going to announce me as an unbaptized. No, they're going to announce me as no longer an unbaptized publisher. Which I saw that coming.
Sure.
And then she had her judicial committee, and she tells me they did ask like a couple weird questions, but not nearly what they asked me. But they were incredibly disgusted with her.
Oh, I bet. Especially as an elder's
And
wife.
I even remember them talking to me saying, just go away, just leave. Oh, leave her, not go away from. They wanted me to keep coming to the Kingdom Hall, but have nothing to do with her.
Yep.
To like save her. And I even told them, I said, okay, I had sex with this guy's wife. I didn't think it was a good idea for me to go to the Kingdom Hall that he went to.
Right.
Just like it's basic common sense and logic. You wrong someone, you're just going to antagonize them by being around.
Yes.
And like he had every right to be angry. I really can't deny that.
Right.
So I just thought that was really weird. And they told me that it'll be like a good test and he'll just have to behave himself and all this and that. And I just still thought it was so stupid. Like in my mind, I view that as antagonistic.
Oh, it's
Like,
awful.
I'm gonna bang your wife, and then you're gonna have to see my face twice a week.
Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah, that is a problem.
Well, unfortunately, you know, it happens a lot with kids who are abused in congregations and then still have to continue to go to meetings whose parents make them go to meetings with their abuser. You know,
Yeah.
it's horrifying.
And that would be. Yeah,
there's a lot of really bad things set up inside the congregations like that.
Jesus. Yeah, my wife's. We got married. So there you go. We got married. So yeah, my wife's youngest daughter had issues like that, and she's just an evil apostate.
Yeah, not somebody who's tremendously hurt.
Because she dared say what some elders did to her.
Yep.
Because it's all lies.
Yep.
But
so how does this go? So now
so
you're going to the congregation. Okay.
Wait, sorry, what?
So you're going back to that congregation. What happened to her? Yeah.
Oh yeah, she got disfellowshipped.
Okay.
We obviously did not keep going back to that hall.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I have enough common sense. I'm not going to do that. I just like reverted to my old self. And we moved in together into an apartment. She was disfellowshipped. I just didn't give a damn anymore in regard to the religion. I just reverted to my old self. Like, here's the beard. Here's the wad of Copenhagen in my cheek. I'm gonna cuss, whatever. Just and that's the way we lived for a while. Until all of a sudden one morning, it was a Saturday morning, I was sitting on the couch. Because I get up early, no matter what, and she likes to sleep. And I got up early like normal Saturday morning. I was sitting on the couch, playing video games, with a wad of Copenhagen in my cheek, and she wakes up, comes out, and you have to stop doing that tobacco and all this and that, or it's all over and all this. Like, oh God, okay. And all of a sudden, like after not going to meetings for several months and just living a normal life, it was, I guess, time to buckle down.
Time to be a witness again.
Yep. And I just remember thinking, this sucks. Stopping the tobacco is good.
Sure.
Like, no one can really argue that it's bad to stop. But yeah, all of a sudden everything had to change, and it's back to meetings at a different hall. We moved out of the apartment, got a house, which again we had to change congregations again for that. And then we started going there, and of course I'd sit in the back with her because she's disfellowshipped, and everyone would like talk to me but not to her. And I actually specifically requested a Bible study, which I know is like the most exciting thing a witness can be asked.
Yes, it is. Yes.
And they took probably 4 or 5 months to start one, which really shocked me because I thought for sure I asked for one and someone's going to just jump on that. I mean, you get hours in, like, they crave a Bible study because they don't really have that many, because most people have enough common sense to say, no thanks, and shut the door.
Yes.
So
was it that your reputation preceded you?
I don't know, but I assume so.
Yeah, I'm sure there was a letter sent. If nothing else, there was probably a letter sent with her in her file or whatever that alluded to you. So,
well, if I was an unbaptized publisher, does that mean I had a card? Do you have a card?
You probably had a card, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it took.
So yeah, I probably went along with that maybe.
And I kept asking, and whatever. Finally got a call, and some elder was going to meet with me. And man, I feel really bad because deep down, this guy he's a very. I liked him.
Yeah.
Like, his mother was always a witness. Well, not always, but like during his life, she was always a witness. His father didn't believe in God. He was a World War II vet and just kept his mouth shut. So he grew up in a divided household, but for some reason, the religion stuck with him. And he was really good to me, really good to me. And so this elder that was studying with me, he was a lawyer, and I have some like anxiety disorders, and I went to a new psychiatrist, and she put me on a bunch of new meds, and I waited until Saturday to take them because I drive truck and I don't really want to kill anyone. So I tried to be responsible, but I took them and I started hallucinating and just ended up taking my dog out for a walk and talking crazy. I don't remember anything. And long story short, ended up with a legal issue, which fortunately this elder lawyer was able to help me out with, which led to me feeling a deep sense of what's the word I'm looking for?
Obligation?
Yes.
Yeah, so you felt
I mean,
obliged.
he did help me out a lot.
Yeah.
I can't deny that.
Yeah, and good for him. That's nice of him to do a favor for you.
Yes.
But let's also realize that he may not have done that favor for just anyone. I mean, you were studying with him, you know. I'm sure that plays into it as well. But I mean, good on him because he didn't have to try to help out. But then you feel obligated because you're like, here I am studying with this guy and he just hooked me up, you know.
So, yeah, where were we in the story?
Oh, so you know, so here you are. This is your, kind of your second time around in this new congregation now, and this brother is studying with you.
Yes, and finally got the Bible study, and doing that whole thing happened. I shaved off my beard again, and started progressing. My wife was still disfellowshipped, but this elder, on occasion, would talk to her because she'd always get home from work when he was there for the study. And he was actually nice. He would give her some encouragement. And I don't know. He didn't shun her quite like other people did.
Yeah, you still saw her as a person.
Yes. So, my mind is getting so jumbled.
Oh, that's all right. So, I mean, actually, that is kind of an interesting thought. He's a lawyer and probably deals with people a lot that, are accused of something, but he can still see them as humans. And so, he was kind of seeing your wife in that same way. Here she was, found guilty of something and, paying the price, but he still saw her as a person too. And so how did life go from there? You're now studying again. Your wife, does she starts? I assume she's going to the meeting, or you had already said she was going to the meetings with you and being shunned there. So how long before she gets back in?
So I think she had to write her letter more than once, which I think is pretty normal.
Yeah, it is.
I honestly don't remember exactly how long it took her, but it was a while.
Right.
It was a while. And especially since there was an elder involved in the wrongdoing.
Right.
Because elders are definitely superior to everyone else, even though we're told titles don't matter.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah. She essentially committed a crime against a cop, so she's going to get a longer term,
Yes. So, eventually she gets reinstated. I guess we'll just leave it at that, because
right.
I don't know how long it took. And I noticed, so we're in a new congregation. She didn't really know any of these people. They still weren't forgiving. And supposedly no one's supposed to know what happened. But they would talk to me. They were super nice to me. But they kind of avoided her like the plague, even after she was reinstated. Which always really bothered me, because I saw how much it hurt her. It hurt her deeply. But let's see.
So how do you? So she's reinstated now.
Yes.
How about you? At the same time, you're on your path to actually getting baptized.
Yes. So actually, I ended up doing the questions. How many people? I remember meeting with two different elders for the questions, and obviously the elder that studied with me couldn't go over the questions.
Right.
Is it just 2? Because I only remember 2.
Should be 3, but
Should be 3.
yeah. Or at least in my case, it was 3. I don't know. It's been a long time.
No, you're right. Because the first meeting was in the Theocratic Ministry School room. No, not. Jeez, that's the first hall. Jeez, this hall didn't have a second school. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
But it's in the room that it would have been in.
Yes.
So I guess it's in the room where shunned people sit.
Yes. Yes. You
And then
come in and
this,
you leave through the same room.
Yes. So yeah, my first meeting with an elder was in there. Then the second was up on the stage. Mm-hmm. We sat where people where the women do the little talks, because they can't actually stand up and give a talk. They have to speak to someone else.
Right.
And it's like we're eavesdropping.
Right.
Because God forbid a woman actually just flat out speak to you herself. But yeah, so first one in the back, second one on the stage at that table with the chairs, and the third one was in the elders' room, now that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I was approved. I ended up getting a phone call, because after the 3, you're not told instantly.
Right.
They have to like all talk to each other.
They have to huddle up.
I've always been a smart ass. And I was a smart ass through all of this, yet they still approved me. Because they'd say, like, where's the devil? And I pointed down. He's like, he's down there, down in hell, down there. Total smart ass. And somehow I guess they realized I was just being a smart ass. They approved me, and there was a convention. The convention was the next thing up. And I didn't get baptized at that convention, even though I'd been approved. I waited because my wife really wanted to be reinstated when I got baptized, so that she could be up by the little glass. I don't know how it looks where you're from, but the assembly hall here, it's got this like splash guard thing. It's like you're at an amusement park with like dolphins or something.
Weird.
It's a pool on the other side of this glass, so everyone could stand around the glass. And
you're like an exhibit. That's weird.
Yes.
That's strange.
Yes. And with my anxiety problems and everything, my baptism was fine. The elder I studied with had to keep nudging me, because I took a decent amount of Xanax.
Oh.
So like even for the even for the questions where you stand up and say yes, he had to like nudge me, and I'm like, yes. It's like, because my anxiety's so bad, I can't go down to the front of an assembly hall.
Yeah.
I'll either puke or run or both. So, yeah, my wife was reinstated. That's why I didn't get baptized at the convention. Waited till the next assembly.
Mm-hmm.
And then there you go. I was baptized. And the funny thing is, I know the year it was in, but it was September something of 2016. And I don't know. The actual date is like super important to them.
Yes, it is.
To me, it was never that important. Like, I just.
July 4th, 1992.
Oh, man.
Because you're told like you have to remember this date. Like they put so much importance on it.
Yeah, because Jesus is going to come down and ask you, and if you don't know, he's going to destroy you.
Yeah, that's what you have to do to get into paradise. You have to answer the baptismal date question. Like, what day were you baptized?
But I didn't even get baptized because I truly believed. Because I even made a comment about, like, I'm not getting baptized in allegiance to some organization. I'm getting baptized for like God and Jesus.
Right.
And I had a lot of problems with my wife, and she's very abusive. And I thought that if I just did all the right things, maybe things would be different.
Yeah.
So I did that, and what was cool, I got baptized. I was so out of it. It's all It's at like the halfway point. So they do like the morning thing,
Oh yeah.
then baptisms, then there's like a lunch break, and then you're supposed to come back. Well, I was so out of it. She just took me to get something to eat and took me home. I didn't even have to sit through the last half of it.
Nice. Wow, that's like the best baptism ever. Wow. Man, some people get like they get baptized and their parents might give them a Bible with their name embossed on it or something. You got to cut the rest of the day. I'd take that any day.
I always hated the assemblies and the convention. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, if you don't really believe it, that's going to be a long day.
A dozen horrific things I'd rather do.
Yes. So where do you go? Where do you go from there? I mean, you talked a little bit about your marriage issue, with some abuse in it. Where do you go from there?
Well, as I'm sure most people listening will surmise, nothing changed. Yeah. Well, actually, it changed within the congregation. Suddenly, no one gave a damn about me. And
isn't that fascinating?
Yes.
It happens all the time.
And even the elder that studied with me, and again, I don't dislike the man. I think deep down he's a very good man. I do have a level of respect for him, but
yeah, I can tell.
He I tried inviting him over, like for I'll barbecue some ribeye, and like I would like your wife to come over and we'll share a meal together. Just come over, and my wife's reinstated. I'm baptized. Let's share a meal, just talk and have a good time. I mean, is that absurd?
Nope, not at all.
Kept blowing off, then finally said yes. And it was going to be on a Sunday, and we went to the Sunday meeting. We had everything ready. And at the end of the meeting, my wife went up and talked to his wife. And she said, "Oh, yeah, we're not coming." Like, thanks for telling us right before. Like, all of a sudden, no one gave a damn. We couldn't even get anyone to do anything with us. Nothing.
They just want to get you in. They don't care about you once you're in.
and then it's just over, done.
Yes. Yep.
And I did get really discouraged with how just no one liked my wife. And part of me thinks like, well, maybe they see what a bitch on wheels she is. But the other part of me, sorry. but they don't really know that.
Right. They don't know what happens at home. I understand.
Yes. So all they know is what she did, even though they're not supposed to know that.
Right.
Which I guess we'll get into how, like, I know for a fact people were talking even several towns over. Because I ended up getting a new job somewhere about like 30 minutes away up in the mountains. And the guy that was training me, he's a witness. Yep. And I was like, okay, no, but at this time I was still like, oh, that's cool. We got something in common. So he's, showing me how things go, and I'm in the passenger seat. He's driving, shifting and everything. And he asked me what town I came into the truth in, which, by the way, I never called it the truth.
Nice, because, good for you.
No, because I would say it's going to change because it keeps changing. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, maybe it's like the closest thing to the truth right now, but do you really think it's going to stay this way? And then people get all weird because they think whatever it is right now is the way it'll always be.
Absolutely.
Even though it's always changed.
Yep.
So I tell him what town I started in, and oh my God, he mentioned this elder's name and talked about how he had a Bible student, and this Bible student, their Bible study, ended up having sex with his wife, and his wife took off with him. and he's sitting there talking all this crap about me, and he didn't even know that it was me.
Oh, the rumor mill inside
Yes.
Jehovah's Witnesses is
And this was like
strong.
30 minutes away up in
Yep.
the hills.
Yep.
And I just sat there going, really? Wow, that's awful. You know, just
There were stories. I would go out in service as a 18, 19-year-old pioneer ministerial servant. I would go out in service in other congregations. And apparently there were a bunch of old sisters in my own kingdom hall who were talking mad stuff about me and spreading it. And I never did anything wrong. I have no idea what they were saying. But there were people who'd be like, "Oh, you're Mike Shimwell," and they like look at me a weird way, and I'm like, "What the heck?" And I eventually found out that there was this whole like gossip line of all these older sisters that just got together and they would just talk mad shit about people, and they didn't even know what they were talking about, you know. But Jehovah's Witnesses love them some gossip because it's all they've got. I mean, let's face it, there's nothing else going on. It's perpetual Groundhog Day where every day is the same as the next. So you got to have something to talk about or something of interest. And that I always like the quote. It's like, big minds talk about ideas, small minds talk about other people, something like that. I kind of liked that because that's primarily what Jehovah's Witnesses were. It wasn't talking about ideas and something bigger. It was all devolved into this small gossip line that would run between congregations. So I can see you now sitting there with this guy talking all kinds of stuff about you in the same truck. That is crazy.
No.
Crazy.
Which is weird because he trained me for 2 weeks and then he moved down the hill by where I live to a different location. And then 2 years later, I transferred down there and so I work with him again.
Oh, wow.
And I got so sick of justifying my religion because of this guy. I got so sick of it. And people would come up to me and say, "Why are you guys so mean and racist and hateful?" Because he yells at the Mexicans for speaking Spanish near his truck, and if the Mexicans come in the break room when he's in there, he'll straddle the bench so his face is facing the wall, so his back is to them. And my dispatcher realized this guy didn't like me, and my dispatcher came up to me one morning and said, "Hey, I asked so and so," almost said his name, sorry. I asked so and so why he doesn't like you, and he told me it's because you're so close and friendly with the Mexicans. I was like, he actually said that? And my dispatcher's just nodding. Yeah, he said that. And I couldn't believe that he was openly racist like that. Like,
Jehovah's United people.
And he's the type of guy that anyone, even myself, even though I'm supposedly his brother, anyone, if you say good morning, he won't acknowledge you. If he's right in front of you and he walks into the office and you're literally right behind him, he will just barely crack open the door and slip in there so the door shuts behind him so that he doesn't have to hold the door open for you. Like, he's
a weird guy.
And people would constantly come up to me and ask me about my religion because they knew that we were the same religion. And they'd be, like, "Why are you guys so mean and stuff?" And I would be like, "No, we're not supposed to be that way. And he's just different. But that's not how things are supposed to be," trying to defend it. Because he's a ministerial servant, as a matter of fact.
And here you are trying to defend it, and you're really not that into it,
No. And now it's awesome. I just inform people that ever since this guy was a child, he's been told that all of us are influenced by Satan, and he's just waiting for his God to come down and destroy us so that him and his people can live peacefully here without having to bother with us.
Yep.
And then their jaws drop. And then I go, "No, I'm serious. That is why he treats all of you like that, and even treats me like that."
So let's get to that. So, that's where you are now. How did you get from where you were as this newly baptized person with your, freshly reinstated wife? How do you go from that to being on the Shunned podcast?
Well, actually, something happened during my baptism questions. That was the first thing that really got me going. Huh. So now we're going to venture into my father-in-law.
Okay.
So I didn't know all of this. I ended up finding, I found all of it out once they couldn't hide it anymore, because I personally had to go deal with something he did.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that, that my wife's parents became witnesses when she was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 or something. So basically her whole life. And they both came into it, and they were married and everything. But ever since I've known my wife, her parents have been separated. And I didn't know exactly why. But I would go help my father-in-law. I mean, because he's an older guy. He claims he's crippled and blind, but he can read things, watch TV, walk around, navigate people to locations. So, I mean, he can see.
Okay.
And he's not crippled because he walks around everywhere. But, I mean, I just still, felt kind of bad for him because he just looks so pitiful. And so, I'd take him places and try to help him.
Right.
We moved him into this place that would come in. It was like a big apartment building for older people, and they'll come in once a week and do your dishes and do your laundry and stuff. So it's not quite assisted living, but it's like just one notch below it.
Right.
And my wife finally got a call about him, and it was apparently the community, the manager just thought these are some old crazy ladies at first, because she was getting reports of my father-in-law going and feeling the door handles and going in and touching women down there.
Mm.
And the final straw was on camera. He grabbed some lady and wouldn't let her go and was forcing his tongue in her mouth right in front of the elevator. And then that's when the management decided, okay, these aren't just senile old ladies. They're actually telling the truth.
Yeah.
So my wife ends up telling me the whole story about, because I was like, what is going on here? And she said, well, you know how my sister lives in Seattle and we're down in Sacramento? My father-in-law raped my sister-in-law when she was 6. Mm. And instead of doing anything about it, they sent her up to Seattle to live with her grandparents.
Goodness.
He raped a neighbor's wife when the neighbor was gone on a business trip. He tried to do things to my wife. Fortunately, she was always like a strong-willed girl, and she'd fight, and so he never got it. But he would make sure and kick her with his pointy cowboy boots down there, so it was black and blue, because if he couldn't have it, he'd make sure she was in pain. And the reason he was separated with my mother-in-law is my mother-in-law, her mother got Alzheimer's and moved in with them. And one day she came home early and caught him raping her own mother. And all these, and there's other things I could tell you. Sure, but out of all these things, he never once actually really got in any trouble. And no one ever talks about it.
Was it taken to the elders at any point?
Oh, yes. And I personally...
And so he has been a witness himself this whole time.
Yes, he's a witness in good standing right now.
Of course he is.
And man, he's actually the reason I first contacted you, because I had to deal with that sick son of a bitch. And I was just pissed. I was pissed.
Oh, I don't blame you. I mean, it's disgusting and horrifying.
But I didn't know any of that until all of a sudden there was this deal with where he was living. So I told my wife, look, I mean, I'm not controlling. I don't care what my woman does. She can go anywhere, whatever. But when it comes to a sexual predator, like the rules change. You're done. I'm taking care of it. Because when it comes to a sexual predator, you're not going to be around them. Like, is that controlling?
I don't know. Everybody's got to draw their own lines and have those
draw my line at that because
conversations.
I can forgive
Yeah.
pretty much anything, but when it comes to that,
Yeah.
no.
Well, and
no.
it doesn't sound like he's ever stopped.
No, and he hasn't.
And
so
why is no one doing anything about this man?
I don't know. He's got away with it since like the late '60s.
Yeah. Well,
So,
and let us acknowledge that unfortunately humankind didn't in the past see this predatory behavior for quite what it is, and a lot of people swept a lot of things under the rug, but hopefully as we are becoming more enlightened as human beings, we can start to call this out and talk about it more and get people help, and the people who are perpetuating this can be put where they need to be, which is away from other people they can hurt.
I guess we kind of, well, not we, I don't blame you. I forgot to mention something which is quite important to this timeline.
Sure.
My wife, when we got together, I was 25 and she was 50. So,
big.
So my father-in-law is old.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you have to be.
I don't know.
You have to be at least in the 70s.
Yeah. So hopefully it puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
Because people might have been thinking like, what do you mean back to the early '60s?
So, yeah.
Like,
late about
60s,
the time.
sorry.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which marrying someone that much older than you is stupid. But anyway, it's not gonna end well. So I went down there. I knocked on his door. I was pissed because I just found out all this about him.
Right.
And this place was about to kick him out, throw him out for this. For some reason, the families of these women, none of the families decided they wanted to like try to get in trouble. This guy, he's done stuff back to the late '60s. No one's ever done anything to get him in trouble.
Yep.
Like, I know if I went out and like did one stupid thing, man, I'd be thrown in jail. I don't let these guys do it.
Yes.
And I'm not jealous. I don't want to do it.
No, but they're predators, and this is what predators do.
And they've always gotten away with it
because they're such good manipulators.
Well, not really, because
I knocked on his door.
I knocked on his door, and he was happy to see me and everything, and he could tell I was not happy to see him. So, but I was going to take care of this because I'm protective. So I find out he's a sexual predator. I'm taking care of it. I'm not going to put my wife in harm's way or anything now that I found out all this stuff. She grew up in a house where her mother bought her a lock to keep her father out from raping her. I mean, what the hell? Yeah. So no, I'm taking care of this. I mean, wouldn't you do the same thing?
Sure.
Yeah. Like, no, you're done. I'm taking over. So I knocked on his door. I said, so-and-so needs to see you. I don't even remember her name anymore, but the manager. And he said, why? And I said, I'm pretty sure you know. And we just walked down there, and he tried, being nice and joking around with me, and I just wasn't having it. We went down, sat in the lady's office, and all the lady had to say was, crap, almost said his name again. She said, Mr. Scumbag, we got a complaint about you on whatever night or whatever, and we have some video. And he instantly says, oh, Joe, which is apparently also a woman's name, an old lady's name. And yeah, just admitted to it. Totally admitted to it. And that's the woman that he held down and forced his tongue in her mouth in front of the elevator. So he admitted to it and everything. And then the lady's sitting there talking to him. And I'm just sitting there glaring at him. Like, oh man, really not liking this guy right now. And she tries to tell him how unacceptable that is. And he says, well, she acted like that's what she wanted. The lady said instantly, Mr. Scumbag, that is exactly what every sexual predator says.
Absolutely.
Yes. And then she even said, you're married. You're a Jehovah Witness and you're married. And all he said was, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
and what, like when he was caught raping his own mother-in-law, he quit claimed the deed to the house, so he has no ownership to it. Like, and like it makes sense if your alternative is going to prison for some sex crime. Yeah, do whatever they want, right? No one wants to go to prison for that. So yeah, like they didn't tattle on him to the authorities as long as he quit claimed the deed to the house and got the hell out. And where am I going with this? I don't know.
it's just
Oh,
kind of.
so
Go ahead.
okay, so sorry. Oh, so with this whole thing with this manager, and I was there for it, and they evicted him for it, and apparently the company that owns this facility owns most of the old people homes around here.
Mm-hmm.
So he's just like banned. And so it was my first meeting with an elder for the baptism in the back room, not the room not the elder room. Yeah, do you know what I mean by back room? With the glass.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
the meeting back room. Okay. Yeah. It was back there, and I told him about this because it had just happened like the day before. And my father-in-law is a witness in good standing, going to all the meetings and stuff. And I was like, I just had to go deal with this, and he admitted to it. And of course, the elder acted concerned, asked me a bunch of questions, forwarded it to the elders where my father-in-law went.
Mm-hmm.
Then those elders called me. And even though he admitted to it and there were multiple witnesses, nothing ever happened.
Because it's not witnesses making the accusations, and
Yeah.
that camera doesn't exist on witness property, and all they care about are witnesses. They don't care about other people.
So I guess
which is disgusting.
It puts a new spin on the 2-witness rule.
No, it really is. I mean, I've interviewed people who had a second witness, but the second witness was not one of Jehovah's Witnesses and did not count. And it's horrific. If that doesn't show how disgusting their view of other human beings is, I don't know what would. They don't care about protecting other people. They only care about themselves.
Yes. And that put a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Because I saw that he didn't get in trouble. And like the elders actually talked to me. Even elders I'd never met, I didn't know from his congregation, they called me, questioned me. Because I was always told, when you become one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you are accountable to the congregation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a lot of shit.
Oh, completely. Yeah. You were probably talked to more than he was.
Yes. And they're familiar with it. Like they this goes back so long that they've dealt with so many. They even dealt with when he raped his mother-in-law. They've dealt with all of it, and they never did anything.
It's heartbreaking.
And unfortunately, because of him, my mother-in-law and my wife, they hate men. They hate him. And like, I get it.
Sure.
He's a very, very, very bad man. But there's no need to be a complete sexist about it. Not all men are the same.
Sure.
Because like for me, I don't like my mother. She's a horrible, horrible, lying, manipulative human being. I have no love in my heart for her. But I like women. Women are typically very nice and loving and compassionate. Like, you don't have to judge them all. based on one person.
Yeah,
But
we're
I
not
guess that's
supposed to
common
do
sense at play.
that. Yeah, we're really not supposed
There's a
to.
lot of bad men, there's a lot of bad women, but there's
Sure.
a lot of good ones too.
Yeah, we're all just people.
So,
And there's good ones and bad ones.
I don't know what ever happened to judging people based on the conduct of their character. Like no one does that anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna avoid that topic.
Well,
There's just a lot of there's a
isn't that
lot
a Martin
of
Luther King Jr. quote right there?
what? Yeah, I'm gonna avoid this topic.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of what is it? You talk about like the pendulum of society, and it swings one way, and it's at one unfortunate extreme, and then a lot of times it swings to another unfortunate extreme, and we as humans and as culture have a difficulty with balance.
Yes.
And I think things swing from one to the other, and then hopefully we'll find balance at some point. But things definitely get skewed. But in this case, it's just a shame that one person, your father-in-law, has been allowed to hurt so many other people, and to get away with it. And we all want to see justice served. But in the end, also, we all have to. There's only so much you can do. Sometimes in some of these situations, you put it out to the authorities that be, and then you can only do so much.
Yes.
And it's just, yeah, we don't have perfect ways, unfortunately, of dealing with this stuff yet, or even good ways sometimes. But I hate that it has hurt your wife, your mother-in-law. This guy's hurt so many. Your wife's, your sister-in-law. All these people have been hurt by this one awful person. And there's just no good way to. And unfortunately, now he's old too, and
so now they really don't care.
Yeah.
And yeah, because now it's an excuse. But when you go, hey, this went back to when he was a young man.
And remember, he's blind and crippled, right?
Yes, even though he can see and he can walk around.
Right. But he can play the victim so that he can get what he wants. And
he's so blind and crippled that he was able to guide a taxi over here 3 days ago and proceed to walk around and bang on all the windows and doors and try to break into the house. And again, he was taken away in the back of a cop car.
Yeah.
I lose my shit when I see that guy. I really do. I lose my shit.
Yeah, he is not a good person, unfortunately.
I just come unglued. I've never hit him or anything, but just
yeah, because then you just get in trouble and he wouldn't.
Yes,
and
because he'd be some poor innocent little old man.
Right.
But
and in the end, chances are some horrific things were done to him as well. And it's just this cycle of awfulness that gets perpetuated. But that's where we have to start speaking up so that we can end it. Oh, well, no. I'm not going to say it will ever end. But
it's not an excuse.
It's not an excuse, and it needs to be.
Tons of people come out of horrible upbringings and become wonderful, beautiful people.
Well, yes.
There is choice there.
Right.
You can choose to be a part of the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can choose to be better than it and refuse to participate.
Right.
I'm sure it's easier to participate when you grew up like that. I'm sure.
Well, and people have different tools, and people respond to things differently. And there are some people. You can take a person who has been sexually assaulted. There are people who will do that and actually date the person who assaulted them. And it's just their brain's way of protecting them, trying to act like, look, you really did want this. You do have control. And then there are other people who will be in a situation like that, and they will never have anything to do with that human being ever again in their life. But, our brain responds to trauma in different ways. And then sometimes it makes us repeat a pattern. Sometimes it makes us run from that pattern. In the end, at some point, we will have choices to make immediately in trauma. We sometimes don't really choose. And then just go down a path. So it's a really difficult, complex subject, but it's a shame that so many innocent people are hurt because someone else was. But let's get back to, so now you and your wife are together, and what we were talking about is how did you get to this place now where you're actually
Well,
going toward ex Jehovah's Witnessdom, to
yes.
that kingdom.
So you brought up a very important thing earlier, a key word. You said something about balance.
I said something about what? Oh, balance. Yes.
Yeah. I'm told frequently that I have no balance and I'm all or nothing, which is the exact opposite of the truth, and it's my wife.
Mm.
And well, okay, so I guess not many men really talk about it because I don't know. I don't really expect people to believe me because I'm 6'5". I'm a big guy. I'm married to a short little woman, and it's kind of embarrassing to talk about. But it is possible for men to be physically abused by women.
Absolutely.
And she gets, they reached a point where she just, like, at first they're super sweet and nice, and then it slowly starts, and then eventually you're just in hell. And there've been a couple times I've even like gone back to the Kingdom Hall and talked to the elders with blood streaming down my face because she just beat the shit out of my face because she doesn't get her way or whatever. She wants to control me. She just gets incredibly violent. And then there have been multiple occasions. She resorts to violence rather quickly, and it's humiliating because, yeah, I'm more than capable of defending myself, but if I do so, then I'm going to be the bad guy.
Yeah, and
So you
that's
just
not
have
what
to
it's
take
about
it.
anyway. Yeah.
You just have to take it, and then you're also told you can handle it. Like, I didn't kill you. You can handle it. You're a big guy. Like, whatever, You're just told you can handle it. You can handle it. Well, just because I can handle it doesn't mean it's okay to do it.
Yeah.
So I went to the elders many times. We had a house in the neighboring town. That type of behavior was going on, and her mother, my mother-in-law, she developed Alzheimer's, just like her mother. And I always said, I'll help. I'll do whatever I can. We gotta, I'll help sell that house, get her into a place, whatever we gotta do, I'll help. But we are not moving into that house. Well, my wife decided getting rid of the house because everything was always in my wife's name. Like, looking back, I saw that she was controlling me from day one. Even my car that I've made every car payment on, and my last car payment is actually January, this next month. It's all in her name. So technically she could take it away. But everything's always been in her name. And she got rid of the house, and she told me I could either be homeless or find my own place or whatever, but she's coming in here. I said, fine. My sister-in-law from Seattle came down, the one that was shipped off there. She came down to spend time with her mother and be here. And she was a witness to this. Man, my wife just freaked out the night we moved in. Like, I have my golf clubs, and I was fortunate enough to somehow get my father's golf clubs. My sister got like all the good stuff. I got, like, she got all the Rolexes and everything nice, and I got like 3 of his ugliest ties and a couple sweatshirts.
Yeah.
But I did get his golf clubs. So my wife told me over and over, put the golf clubs in the right side of the shed. So I walked into the shed, put them on the right side. Like, what would you do, Mike? Put the golf clubs in the right side of the shed. what would you do?
I would walk in, go to the right, and put the golf clubs down.
Yes, that's exactly what I did over and over. And she'd carry them all the way from the backyard out to the front and throw them out in the street over and over and over, and keep telling me that. And I kept doing it. Like apparently the right side. So if you walk down to the right, there's this tiny little door with like a tiny little cubby that she meant that I should put them in. But I was an idiot,
Okay.
obviously. So she was just
If you want detailed things done, you need to give detailed instructions.
Because when you say right side of the shed, I'll walk into the shed, put them on the right.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's cussing at me, calling me her favorite thing. Her favorite thing to call me is motherfucker. I'm called it constantly. And just freaking out. And her sister and her mother are in the house. And I just come in, just scratching my head. Just, I don't know what to do. And my wife finally comes into the house, informs me that now that we're here, all she has to do is figure out how to get rid of me, because she doesn't ever want me to have anything to do with this house. She wants me to take care of her mother and then take care of her and then give the house to her children so that I end up old and nowhere to go. And all of a sudden I'm old and she dies and then I have nothing. And I am an incredibly selfish person for thinking that's not right because I'm only thinking of myself. Like,
it's all classic domestic abuse.
So, but that very night I had to stop my sister-in-law from calling the cops because I ended up in the closet in the room, and I was like shouting like help, because she had a little tiny like paring knife and she was trying to jab me with it in the closet because she didn't even want me coming in here. It was just crazy. So I met with the elders several times, told them what was going on. Like, she'll walk in the door from work and say fuck in like 5 different forms, and just because again I was always told we're accountable to the congregation. And if you really think about it, like, she was disfellowshipped for having sex with me while she was married to someone else. But if you really think about it, wasn't she ultimately disfellowshipped for not having any respect for her husband?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that the root of the problem?
Yeah, I mean,
So,
you can definitely
like,
see it as part of that, yeah.
Yeah, like the I don't know, the behavior never changed, and all they kept telling me was, "Go ahead and leave her. We don't care." And then I kept saying, "So I can leave her, but I was 29 when I moved in. Like, I'm supposed to live the rest of my life, and I can't remarry, and I'm supposed to just never have sex again. And if I do, I'll be disfellowshipped." Yeah. Like, okay. They refused to speak to her about it. And it is acceptable because I thought you would get in trouble for speaking so nasty and being violent. I really did. Like, I just, even to this day, I don't get it. But things just got worse and worse. Every time there's a convention, I end up having to leave the house. I'll get thrown out. She'll get violent. And I got a good neighbor. He's my friend. His wife died of breast cancer, so he's just all by himself. He's 49. And every convention, you can count on it. Because my friend, I'll be over there talking to him, and they'll go, "Isn't the convention this next weekend?" And he's like, "Well, the room's ready." You know? And yeah, me, an idiot, just keep coming back. But so that's what started like forming like such super serious doubts in my head. Like, I know, like, with my father-in-law, that put a lot of doubts in my head. And then like how my wife was, she's her behavior is fine. She can comment at meetings. They refuse to speak to her. Like, I've shown them texts, videos, all sorts of stuff, and they refuse to speak to her and say that she can talk to them if she wants, but they're under no obligation to ask her to speak with them. Does that make any sense to you? Like, is that your experience?
No, but it could be a situation where they're actually kind of afraid of her, or
I
they just know they might see her as drama and they don't want to get involved.
yeah. So
That happens a lot.
so after we moved in
Bullies,
to
like,
the
there you go. Elders are kind of like bullies sometimes, or well, a lot of times. But bullies like to bully people they can bully. If they don't think they can bully you, then they're not going to bully you. If they see you as kind of ornery or cantankerous, they're probably going to stay away from you.
yeah, and then I guess that makes sense.
Bullies don't like to deal with other bullies.
But it's not what they preach.
No, not at all.
No.
No, but then that, you buy into what they preach, and then you realize that it's all a bunch of garbage.
Yes. So, okay, ever since we moved into this house, it's like right on the other side of the interstate 80, but it's technically a different town. We moved congregations, and I went to the meetings at first and went out in service. I had my beard because I was just to the point where I was like, "Fuck it," like
Sure.
I just didn't care. And what's weird is this congregation, they didn't send me home because I had a beard. They actually went out in service with me. And one guy, he was an older guy. He complimented me on my beard, and he said, "I remember back in whatever, there was a brother with a beard, and they always said, he had a bad attitude. And I always told them, yeah, he's got a bad attitude because none of you will work with him." And that's true.
Wow, you got
Like,
you got a congregation that allows a beard. Wow.
I mean, I doubt they like it,
Yeah.
but I was actually, I even went to a Sunday. No, not Sunday. Jeez, it was the first Saturday of every month, at least where I'm from. The whole congregation meets at the Kingdom Hall for the field service.
Yep.
Is that like
A lot of
nationwide?
congregations do that,
Oh, okay.
depending on whatever.
Yeah,
And actually, they may all
I
do
even
that
went
now,
out
I
with
don't
an
remember.
elder. My wife and I went out with an elder and his wife, and I was just shocked because I'm used to getting sent home from the previous congregation.
Yeah.
Because I was literally sent home. Like the whole service group was dismissed from the house, and I was asked to stay back, and my wife was sitting next to me, and I had a whole long talk. It was actually right after some Watchtower article was released, where it said something about like if it's acceptable in your area, it's
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
And here, like, there's doctors, lawyers, people on the news.
In
like,
most places, there are.
Yes, but somehow it's still not acceptable in the area.
Right.
Whatever. And
It's just to keep control.
yeah, I got sent home. But yeah, at this new place, like whatever. And but I tried reaching out to these others too, and again they told me the same thing. She can talk to them if they want to, but even though they have video and texts of all this and everything, they still can't force her to talk to them. And I can leave her if I want. And I'm just left with this, like, so it's fine. It's totally fine. I don't get how that's totally fine. It just baffles me.
Shouldn't be, but they don't want to get involved. So I mean that that really gets to that. It's
so
like
I stopped going.
Yeah.
I stopped going. Like, well, what's the point? No one cares. No one cares.
No,
And I stopped going. And then and actually I started doing so much better after I stopped going. It was like such a freedom. Like at first I would always like I'm not feeling good. Like there was always an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally it was just, I don't want to go. I'm not going. And then that felt good once I just admitted the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Because she used to call me Flake and stuff on Sundays and Wednesdays. Flake. But then as soon as I said, I just don't want to go. I don't care. They're hypocrites. It did feel a lot better. And
feels better to be truthful and just own your life, doesn't it?
Yeah, kind of like my sister-in-law up in Seattle. She somehow became a witness. I guess my mother-in-law kept talking to her even though she wasn't in her life. And in her, I guess she was like around 30. She ended up getting baptized up there and stuff, but she doesn't actually go to the meetings, and she claims to have some sort of problem where she needs to be close to a bathroom.
Mm.
But we know it's not legit because she can go out to the mall and go up to the mountains in the snow and just be gone all day. But she can't go to a meeting because she needs to be close to a bathroom.
Oh, there are a lot of people who,
Yes.
yeah, live that life.
So it's like I'm a big fan of just say like just be honest. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to go because I think it's a dangerous cult.
Mm-hmm.
Bam.
Yeah, that's it.
Other people like I don't get it when people claim to believe in stuff but come up with every excuse not to. Like just say you don't want to. It's like it's fine. Just do it. But I guess they don't want to be shunned.
Yeah, yeah. People have a lot to lose, and their own reasons for how they choose to leave or choose to exit. So, what about you? What has been your choice as far as leaving, or how to deal with this?
I reached out to the elders again multiple times. They never gave a damn. And then finally, I did more research and stuff, and because the whole 1914 thing never quite clicked with me. I did more research, and I'm like, okay, that's a lie. That makes everything else a lie.
Yep.
And I spoke with an elder, even on speakerphone with my wife, on multiple occasions, and he still didn't give a damn about what was going on. And I said, how do I just have no association with you guys, because I don't want to be associated with Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, you guys don't care. You guys are hypocrites, Pharisees, all this stuff. How do I do it? And he wouldn't even tell me how to do it. He said, just do research. Ask your wife. So anyway, I did my research, and I found out you can write a letter of disassociation. Mm-hmm. And let's see. So today is December 28th. Mm-hmm. This year on Thanksgiving Day, which would have been the 28th of November, I had a meeting with the elders. And no, I didn't wear a suit. No, I didn't. And I had this letter printed out. And I gave my whole spiel, everything. And they didn't want to engage me in any of the things that I said, because I looked them dead in the eye. I was super polite. The meeting lasted like an hour and 20 minutes. And I was very polite because all these men were very polite with me. And I'm a big believer in giving respect as long as respect is shown, because everything in me wants to just say, like, fuck you, piss off, bye.
Right.
But if they're being respectful, I feel obligated to show equal respect, because that's what a good human being does, in my opinion. So I was very respectful, and I even multiple times said, I genuinely apologize for offending you, because I know what I'm about to say is going to be offensive to your senses. Because I really don't hate witnesses. I have no hatred in my heart. I just think they're involved in that's the word, destructive cult. I said dangerous earlier, and I was like, that's not the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I said, Jesus didn't come back in 1914. Jerusalem wasn't destroyed in 607. Just all this stuff. And in my letter, I broke down, because I wrote several letters, and the letters started off with my personal experiences and how I'm wronged and you didn't care. You know, the Bible verse about they'll know us by the love we have and everything. But I kept changing it, and I decided my letters shouldn't be about me and my experiences. The letter should be about the false doctrine,
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to be pissed off and come up with all these personal grudges, but that's not really quite adequate. It should be more about the whole thing, like all the problems with the actual core doctrine.
Mm-hmm.
Because in anything in life, you can be wronged by someone, but that doesn't make the whole thing bad, right?
Right.
So I realized that my letters my rough drafts were just like personal grudges and stuff. So I made sure the end result had nothing personal. Didn't mention my father-in-law. Didn't mention my wife's violent behavior. Nothing. It was all about just doctrinal falsehoods, so that no one could claim that I've just been wronged and I'm
Right. Which they're going to claim whatever they want anyway. But yeah.
So I'm sitting there talking with them very respectfully. They won't address anything I'm saying. All they want to go back to is what started these thought processes. And again, it goes back to, like, predominantly it's my wife's behavior and how it's obviously acceptable.
Right.
That's the original thing that set me down that path. And they were just so fixated on that. They wouldn't argue any of my points. So after an hour and 20 minutes, I realized that I'd made my life worse, because they refused to accept my letter, and they were fixated on my wife because she's the one that set me down that path.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not completely blaming her. I'm just saying we were like in a car together and we could have gone left or right. She said go left, and a bunch of bad crap happened.
Right.
Like, but they were so fixated on that, and all of a sudden, now they need to meet with her. Judicial committee time. And I'm just thinking, shit. Like, I just wanted to give them my letter. It was never about, like, this meeting was not about my wife. I just wanted to explain myself.
You just wanted
my letter.
Out.
Yes. Well, they refused to accept it. And now they needed to meet with my wife. And they were telling me, like, because men are so much better than women. We get to dictate everything, supposedly. And how I had every right to be there, and it was my decision to be there or not. And I tried talking to her about it. And I called her as soon as I left the Kingdom Hall. I called her, and I just told her what happened and how they didn't accept it, and now they want to talk to her. And at first, and I was like, it really wasn't my intention. It really wasn't. And at first she said it's all fine and everything. And since it was Thanksgiving Day, I went and got like a turkey supper somewhere. And she pretended everything was fine. And then I got home, and she's in bed just sobbing. And she's got a bottle of wine in her hand. She's drinking it straight from the bottle, sobbing and just drinking. And I'm thinking, shit. Like, this was not my intention.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, she's treated me really bad and everything, but my intention isn't to screw her over. And there was a time where I wanted her to get in trouble and maybe even be disfellowshipped for what she was doing to me, to teach her a lesson so that, she would treat me better.
Yeah.
But at this
you were
point,
hoping it would fix something, and it's not going to.
But at this point, I viewed it as a destructive cult. So it's not what I want. And I was kind of pissed that all of a sudden the focus was shifted on her.
Yeah, now they suddenly care.
Yes. So I talked, and like, she acted fine on the phone, but then, man, that whole rest of that day and that night, she was just sobbing and drinking, and because she knew her life was over and they're going to make an example out of her. And I actually felt bad for her. About to lose everyone and everything, because it's so abusive.
It is.
So I mean, even though she's treated me really badly, I do have compassion. I don't wish harm on her.
Sure.
So I talked with her. This is one of the few times I always let her do what she wants. She can be gone. She can do whatever she wants. She's shown up so drunk where she passes out in the driveway in her car. I don't get mad at her. Like, do what you want. I don't care. I'm not controlling.
Right.
But she told me she didn't want me around for her meeting. Well, for something in me, I actually went against her wishes because I knew that the elders like view that it's up to the guy. So I actually, against her wishes, went to her meeting with her. And I looked them right in the eye and I said, I know she's done some bad things and stuff, but I refuse to see her get shunned because it is an abusive, manipulative policy. And it is sickening. And I do not want that to happen to her. And then in the end, just so you know, she didn't get disfellowshipped. No. And it's because I think it's because I was so adamant. And then what's weird is the elders. I tried to give them my letter again that day, and they wouldn't take it again. And one like the lead elder, there was like a newer elder, who's the son of another elder, and then the obviously like dominant one that was doing like 99% of the talking.
Yeah.
He kept looking at me and he kept saying things about, and he would make it sound so dirty. He would hesitate and then say it weird. He was talking about apostasy. Because I sound kind of like an apostate. But the way he would hesitate and say it like it's dirty, like trying to get me to think that's dirty. I know he's trying to like get me to change my mind. But no, I don't care. I don't care. I'm done.
So where do you stand now? What are you just walking away and just going to go live your life?
Yeah, I've decided that's what I'm going to do because I've written a letter.
Yeah.
I've tried to give it twice. They don't want to take it. Part of me like just feels so incredibly disgusting and gross being technically associated with it.
Yeah.
Because technically I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, right?
No, I get it. I get it. That's why I disassociated.
But the other part of me goes, nobody in the real world gives a shit.
Right.
They don't know and they don't care.
Right.
And if I tell someone in the real world that I'm not one, then they'll just take it at face value. They don't give a crap if I'm on some book somewhere. So, you know, you don't want to accept it? Fine. Screw you. I guess I give up. I tried. Fine. Say I'm one if you want, but I'm not.
Yeah. So you're just going to go on and
I'm going to move on
and live your life. And
yes.
I mean, they may at some point decide, you know, sometimes it's like, you know, you've heard people say like, you can't fire me, I quit. Jehovah's Witnesses may say you can't quit, we fire you at some point. They may decide that they don't like something you did and try to hold a judicial committee and disfellowship you or whatever. But
I will be really pissed. I'll admit I'd probably get a lawyer letter at that point just because like I tried to disassociate. You're gonna try to like claim I did something bad and disfellowship me, but that's probably just ego right there.
No, I understand. Well, we all look, because you know, everybody when they leave, you hear a lot of things that are said like, this doesn't affect me, or they have no power over me. Yeah, yes. They do. Yeah, they do. And whether it's because they have your family and are holding them ransom, whether it's because they stole your childhood or your ego was wrapped up in it or whatever, they have power over all of us. We don't want to admit that. But if they had no power over you, you wouldn't be defensive and wrapped up in saying things like that. So
yeah, that's true.
It's an unfortunate thing. Look, there's no great way to leave. That's why it's a cult. What happens when you leave is one of the ways you can determine that it is a cult. And so, when you can choose to walk away and just go live your life, and that's a beautiful thing. And if they decide that they want to come after you at some point and try to disfellowship you, then part of leaving and just going and living your life will have to be at that point just ignoring that and letting them disfellowship you in absentia, by not attending, and let it go. The choices aren't always super great because you're in a bad relationship. It's just like if you're in a bad marriage and you leave a bad marriage, it still impacted you. It still had some power over you. That impact is the power it has over you. We all are impacted by the things around us, and pretending like we're not doesn't make it so. So we have to choose what way do we want to be impacted. And I like, you mentioned the lawyer letter that, I actually reached out to someone, as you and I were talking, who had tried to disassociate and they wouldn't accept it. So, because she decided, no, I want out. And she had a lawyer write a letter to the congregation saying, you will accept this. Legally, she is deciding she no longer wants to associate with this. And if you continue to come after her, there will be repercussions. And that got her out. But it's difficult, and we all have to decide what we want and it's really what a lot of things in life come down to is what pain are you willing to endure in order to get what you want. And you have to pick your poison. And so, if you pick your poison and yours is to just walk away, well, it might result in some point in them disfellowshipping you, but who cares, right? And so you'll have to come to a point where you can let that go. But it's difficult, and it does impact us all. So there's no use saying that it doesn't. It impacts all of us in different ways, and that's okay. It's okay to be impacted by it. It's human and natural, and we're all impacted in some way.
And that's a lot of good points. And one thing I want people to know is, I guess, about like your program. I reached out to you when I was like in a really bad state.
Oh yeah.
And usually with some sort of program, things will just like fall by the wayside. But you actually responded to me. Like, bam, I had an email the next day, and I emailed you at night. I think people should know that, like, if you reach out, you actually will be there.
Yeah, I do reach back. I respond to every email.
You do. And
if I haven't responded to your email and you're out there, it's just because I forgot. I am human. But no, I try to respond to every email personally and with thought.
Yeah, so I mean, it did feel really good. Like, oh wow, this guy actually just emailed me back, going, "You said some really fucked up shit. Would you care to actually like tell me your story?" But like,
yeah, you came to me obviously pretty hurt, and I saw that, and so I wanted to ask more because I could tell you needed to get something out.
Yeah, and I thank you for that, and I just think
You're
people
welcome.
should know that like you actually will respond.
Yep, I will, and yeah, I care about people, and I want to see people do better and feel better than being stuck in something that they're not happy with. So go ahead.
So I'm trying to be kind of vague with my plans because part of me, like, if my wife listens to this, I guess everyone else, anyone with a brain can fill in the blanks. So, okay.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but ultimately, um, let's also
My,
say
my
that
my goal for the future is to refuse to tolerate anything that is an abusive relationship,
yeah,
and only be involved with people that are capable of unconditional love.
that's a beautiful thing. It really is, and I'm glad to hear you say that because we all deserve that. We all deserve to live healthy and happy lives. And I was gonna say let's acknowledge that oftentimes people who are abusive have been abused themselves,
Yes, and
and
she was by her father very
sure,
badly.
of course, and it comes down to the old hurt people hurt people. But that doesn't mean that you have to be their punching bag either, or you have to endure that hurt. And so it's up to that person to get help so that they can stop hurting people.
Yes.
Because that's and it can be done. People can change and people can get help and stop the cycle, but they have to want it. They have to be humble enough to admit it, and they have to be willing to put in the work. And it is work, and it's not easy, and it's uncomfortable. But people can change. But in the end, that doesn't mean you have to be the one to
No.
to endure that.
And
So that's up to you.
I know my story's a little bit different, because it is honestly it's kind of embarrassing to have been converted later in life.
Yeah, I can.
Just like how stupid. But
It's not a
anyway,
matter of intelligence.
um, no, but I've benefited greatly from listening to other people's experiences.
Yeah,
So I guess I'm trying to like participate and pay it forward, hoping that maybe someone else can maybe benefit from my experience.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
All stories matter.
yes.
And I appreciate you for sharing yours. And I hope that going forward, you're able to follow through and find those healthy relationships and healthy and to not tolerate abuse. The cycles have to change, and they all start somewhere, and you never know what one person stepping up and making a change might do. Maybe it helps somebody else to stop their cycle or whatever the case may be. And um, I just hope, I just want good things for you, Joseph. That's all. And that's what anyone should want, really. And I want to see you have a life that you're proud of and that you don't feel shame about, that you're excited about. I think that ultimately, we're about to, we're recording this, as you said earlier, December 28th. Just a couple days from 2020. It's not only a new year, but it's a new decade.
Yeah.
Let's all, whoever's listening, if you're in an abusive situation, you got a new decade coming up. Do you want to be in that same situation at the end? Do you want to have happiness? For all of us, where are we now compared to the beginning of the 2010s and teens, whatever you call that? We all have to decide what it is that we want for our life and go get it. Nobody's going to get it for you. So this is your chance to make a change and get a fresh start. So, let's all, I want that for all of us who are listening, or myself as well. My life changes too. We all have to, the only constant is change in life. It will change whether you want it to or not. And here's a chance to actually make some changes that you have a hand in, that you get to choose. So choose the things you can, because there are going to be enough that you can't.
Yes, and I actually know for a fact that it's possible because I guess going back in time before I got involved with the witnesses, I I have uh, I have some mental disorders due to some things that have happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
like PTSD and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And my life got so bad that I couldn't even leave the house. I became skin and bones because I was in constant panic attack mode.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't eat. Like on a good day, maybe I'd eat one saltine. I thought that life was over. It could never get better because growing up, I was able to do anything and everything. And all of a sudden, I can't even leave the house. I can't even be in a vehicle unless I'm driving it. Can't even eat. It's just all over, just constant torment and panic. And through therapy and everything, and getting help, and unfortunately, I never wanted to take them, but drugs. Man, I'm a truck driver. I work. I go out. I eat. I'm not skin and bones anymore. Like, so I already know life can get better, even when it seems like it's over. So, like, from this step, I know that it's possible for things to get better because I've already experienced how it seems like you're trapped and stuck and life is just shit and it's always going to be shit and then you're going to die. No, that's not the case. So I do have faith. I know that things can get better.
That's awesome.
And I don't know, maybe there's someone in that similar situation like I was in. If it seems like you're just waiting to die and everything's horrible, I know you don't believe it, but it can get better. And no, I'm not like completely cured of my problems. I struggle every day.
Sure.
But holy cow, am I like a billion times better.
And that happens not usually by sitting in a vacuum hoping that things change, but it happens oftentimes by taking a step to reach out to other people for help. And there's nothing wrong with that. It is not weakness.
Absolutely not.
It takes strength to reach out for help. And
yes.
I see so many people who would benefit from it. And I want to see more people, here you go. Here's a resolution for everybody in 2020. Reach out for help if you need it. If you need it, Don't try to go it alone. You don't have to be your own hero. Reach out for help and trust in other people because there are good people out there that want to help. And you can find better things in life. And I'm happy and hope to see that for you too, Joseph.
Thank you.
As always, I want to thank everybody that's brave enough to get on here and tell their story so that they can help those that listen. And I hope that in listening back to it, you get a different perspective and can give a little more weight to what you experienced and find some more healing. If you're listening, you can support today's guest by leaving a comment of support on the website at shunnedpodcast.com on the episodes page. While there, you can find the date for the next Shunned Recovery Project online meetup, reach out for one-on-one coaching to get moving on your new life, or buy some merch and rep the show. Visit my other site, xjwhelp.com, for helpful videos and a downloadable roadmap of life after leaving, as well as resources like meetups, books, and a lot more. Join the Facebook support group called Shunned Podcast. Find us on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and more as Shunned Podcast. Leave a review on iTunes or other podcast apps for both this and the original podcast, This JW Life, so that more people can find these stories and get the help that they need. Donating equals loving. So if you love these stories and find them helpful, please support the show at patreon.com/shunned. And there's some rewards there, and it really means a lot to me to see that people support what I'm doing, and it helps me to do more. The theme song for today is No Hell Yet by Fair Voyeur. And as I end all episodes, love others, do no harm, and go be happy.
Curse God